Hi everybody, my name is Mackenzie. I am a SAG-AFTRA actress, and I will be telling you the reasons why I will be voting no on the tentative agreement. I know that this no vote potentially puts us back on strike, and I know that has a lot of reservations for a lot of people. But I do implore you to not only take care of yourself now, but in the future. Right now, we are looking at the eradication of background. In 5 or 6 years, whenever we have our next contract come up, there is a potential for background to be gone. And I know that sounds completely doomsday-y, but hear me out and wait till the end of this video before you make your judgments. But also, I can only tell you based on what I know, what I understand, and how I've read about this with myself and friends. So make your own choice, but at the same time, I highly encourage you to vote no. I want to keep this as brief as possible, so I only want to highlight the artificial intelligence portion of the tentative agreement summary. We have been released the entire contract, but it's still in draft form, so therefore it might as well be a summary, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and touch some of those things. First of all, I feel like we are being strong-armed into being scanned for artificial replicas in order to have a job in the first place. Background will be notified 48 hours in advance, and once they are notified in 48 hours that they will be scanned on a production, they are welcome to say no to the production. We are given that right. However, the producer is also allowed to say, no, I will not hire you simply because you will not be scanned. Producers have always had the right to not hire anybody for any specific reason, and that can be a stipulation. Therefore, as you say no, you are giving up a job, and somebody else that says yes will not only have that job, but also have their replica scanned so that they can be in the databank of the producers for the entirety of that production. So much of this contract has to do with in good faith. Once I give somebody my scanned likeness, I am trusting them to tell me which days that they are going to be using it on set. Unfortunately, I have been fighting them on strike for the last several months. I don't have any good faith in these producers not to take my scanned image and to use it at will. Unfortunately, as a background member, we are constantly seeing pieces of, parts of. You may even see my shoulder in a shot. You may just see the back of my head in a shot. But additionally, with the clauses of all the replications and alterations that we can do within this contract, that's not enough. You're putting the responsibility on me as a performer to watch everything that I have been in and be able to spot me or pieces of me and making sure that I file claims upon this. And that's only if I am able to say, yes, I know I was wearing that shirt. I know that's my shoulder. How in the world is this supposed to be fair? There is no way in this contract for us to keep track of our personal images whenever they are used after we get scanned. Not having the ownership of our scans puts us in a very particularly odd space. We don't have any way to track them. We don't have any ownership over them. We have given them up with consent. So in several years from now, if they are mislabeled or tucked away somewhere and just used without our knowledge, there is a good chance that background could be eliminated. Just because we have already handed over likeness for all of these replicas or new pieces to be used to create background, and I'm very scared by that. Not only are synthetic performers bad for background, but producers under this contract can create completely new performers based off characters that they don't have to pay actors for their likeness. So the easiest way to elaborate on this is if this AI machine used the character of Miranda Priestley to create a base for this new synthetic character, the producers do not have to pay Meryl Streep for that likeness. Additionally, this will severely impact our overtime hours as well as additional days on set that we need for health insurance. Think about that for a second. I'm going to go ahead and give you the scenario. You've been filming for an 8-hour day, immediately are wrapped at 8 hours, and therefore do not get any extra overtime. However, you all know that we tend to spend about 14 or 15 hours on set. I don't understand how that's going to be something that they are not just going to immediately use in post-production. Think of how many hours you're losing out on simply by having somebody say, yeah, we'd hired you for 3 days. 3 days times 8, 24 hours. 24 hours of pay, excellent. However, 3 times 15, 45 hours of pay. That looks a lot different. An emotional slap to the face is that your replica may be upgraded to a principal performer before you do. You may also see your replica be given lines, and you will be compensated as a principal performer, but you will not have that credit to that role. Not at least as a human being. So that's kind of a slap to the face in my opinion. I am also extremely offended by the language, remedies limited to monetary damages. there's a lot of trust that goes into AI and trusting somebody else with your image. So therefore, they do have to tell me within NDA bounds what they are going to be using my image for. However, some things fall through the cracks. Say that my image ends up topless somewhere or depicted as a Nazi, both things that I would never do on camera, especially not for a background role. If I happen to see myself as that, I can reach out to production, and yes, I am entitled to monetary compensation. However, there is no cease and desist. My topless replica or my Nazi replica will remain on camera. There is nothing I can do about that. That's something that's not okay with me. There has to be some kind of moderation or some kind of like compensation or something we can do to protect ourselves from that. This mistreatment can be used even after death. If the performer is deceased and consent is required, it may be granted by an authorized representative of the deceased performer. If a representative cannot be found, then by the union. So therefore, as long as they reach out to our union, who is already not giving us the best of deals, and ask them, hey, can we use this character? And our union says yes, then we have no right to our likeness anymore. And that's just something that I'm not okay with. Ultimately, I do not want my image used as a bargaining chip. Neither should you. This is the briefest I can make my argument thus far, and if you do agree with what I have to say, please vote no on the tentative agreement. I'm aware that this video is choppy. However, I did want to get my opinion through without a bunch of emotion involved, because I think this is something that you have to decide for yourself as well. However, now that we are at this end of this video, please be aware that looking at these worst case scenarios as somebody's best case scenarios is what we're doing here. Somebody's going to be taking advantage of us with this contract, and I don't think that's something that we should stand for. Not as a union, not as people in the entirety of our world. We're starting something and we're touching something that hasn't been touched yet. I'm afraid that this is not something that's just exclusive to our industry. However, we are starting with a basis. Let's make sure that we get to be the trailblazers and putting down our foot and saying how we are and are not going to let these businesses run us and take control of our image. That's something that we should have control and power over ourselves.